Welcome to nCode TV. This video is a short introduction to the nCode address layout feature. We're going to explain what address layouts are and how they help you with your address data quality. We're also going to take a quick look at the many address layouts that are included with nCode, and more importantly, how you can define your own address layouts so you can work with your address data your way. So what is an address layout? An address layout is a configuration setting which lets you tell nCode how your address information is structured physically. Here's an example of a typical address. Notice that the address is broken up into lines and that each line contains a different type of address information. Your addresses may look just like this, or they might use a completely different format. The beauty of address layouts is that they let you tell nCode how your addresses are formatted. In order to work with an address, you need to tell nCode what your address lines are and what kinds of address information go on each line. You also need to tell nCode how to arrange these address lines into a single address record. When you pass your addresses into the nCode Toolkit API, or when you use the nCode batch processor, your addresses are arranged into records using the address layout that you define. Note that these layouts can contain empty space or filler if you like. You can also define your address layouts with as many lines as you need. Your address layouts can be very highly parsed or fully freeform or anything in between. You control the definition of your address layouts, and you can define as many different layouts as are dictated by your business requirements. nCode can work with multiple address layouts at the same time. Another important aspect of address layouts is address element scoping. Address elements are the individual parts of an address. The list of address elements is defined by Canada Post. When you specify an address layout, you're telling nCode how many address lines you have and how big each line is, but you're also telling nCode which address elements go on each line. This is useful for two reasons. First, when you give nCode an address to analyze, your address element scoping is like a hint that tells nCode what type of address elements to look for in each layout line. This keeps nCode from considering some alternative matches, and it helps you get the best match more quickly and easily. Second, when you ask nCode to optimize and standardize an address, your address element scoping tells nCode where you want to see each address element. This is very useful when you need to make sure your address data is structured so it can be stored properly in your database. When you define your address element scope, you need to tell nCode where each address element goes. That includes all of the usual address elements, including the optional ones, but also the elements that apply to other address types, like PO Box addresses, rural route addresses, and general delivery addresses. If you don't need so much granularity in your address element scoping, you can use some shortcuts that make defining your layouts easier. For example, all of the first line elements can be replaced with a single catch-all element called address line. This is the same as having all of the individual first line elements scoped to an address line, but it's much simpler to work with. But what if you aren't sure which address elements might appear on each address line? That's no problem for nCode. Just define your address element scope as freeform and let nCode figure out which elements are on each address line. With its comprehensive knowledge of the Canada Post reference data, nCode will match your address quickly and accurately no matter how it's formatted. So, what address layouts can you use? This is the nCode configuration utility. This program is included with the nCode Toolkit free trial software that you can download from our website. You can use this program to view, modify, and create address layouts and other nCode configuration settings. Let's take a look at some of the default address layouts that come with nCode. We'll use the settings organizer, which will let us quickly review all of the nCode configuration presets. You can see that the default nCode settings offer you a wide variety of address layouts, including some that are totally freeform, some that are very granular, and some that are in between. Of course, the beauty of nCode is that you don't have to make your systems conform to any of our default address layouts. You can create your own layouts to match your specific business needs. You can even create many different address layouts to accommodate diverse data feeds and multiple internal systems. Let's take a look at how easy it is to create an address layout. Using the nCode configuration utility, we'll open the address layout list and click the Add Layout button. You give your address layout any name you choose and then set the overall record length. Now we can add lines to the layout. You can name your layout lines any way you want. You can also set the starting position of the line in your address layout as well as the length of the line. Every address line needs to have one or more address elements scoped to it, so we're going to add the catch-all element, address line. Now we'll add another line for the city, province, and postal code. Your layout lines can sit right next to each other in your layout, but if you need to, or even if you want to, you can include some filler in your address layout. I'm going to put a small gap between my first line and my second line. Now let's scope the city, province, and postal code to the second line. You might have noticed this section of the dialog. While we've been defining our new layout, nCode has been giving us feedback about where we stand with our layout definition. Right now, there's a problem with the layout which makes it invalid. You can see the total record length is too short for the lines we've defined. Let's fix that. There. Now we have a valid layout. Let's just click OK to save it, and we're done. That's how easy it is to customize your address layouts with nCode. To find out more about how nCode's address layout feature can help you solve your address quality challenges, have a look at our website at www.novamg.com. You can download our free trial software, which includes the nCode configuration utility and the nCode user's guide, where you can read about all of nCode's configuration features. You can also take a closer look at all of nCode's default address layouts and try nCode out for yourself. Thanks for watching nCode TV.